Hello everyone, welcome back to Ace Attorney Analyzation. Last time I did an in-depth analysis on the first Ace Attorney game, but it was a bit by the numbers, and my biggest issue with the game also affected my commentary a little. However, I teased that from now on there would be much analysis and much in-depth reading of the games. Frankly, I was shocked at how well received the first one was, and I really have to thank you for all of that. 3A number 1 did not perform well view-wise for what I was anticipating, and that's one of the main reasons this video was not a priority for me the next upcoming months, in addition for having these videos intentionally sparse. You know, something to look forward to so I don't burn out, but that couldn't stop me from doing my job. Let's get the important alert out of the way, and I'll talk to you in a bit. So now that I also do analyses of other games, just at a lower scale, let's be clear that I will not be applying my recommendation system as seen in videos such as the Star Fox Zero analysis and the Super Mario 64 analysis. All of these games must be played in order and experienced in full, making the system literally and completely pointless. Get it? Pointless? It's a pointless system! So I said that PW was a great start for the series, but lacked any lasting appeal or depth. The game simply is not as good as its sequels, and while that isn't the end of the world, I shoved a pitchfork in anyone who deemed the first Ace Attorney game one of the best. Okay, now for a fresh start. Let's give some history behind the development of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All, also known as Phoenix Wright 2, but no one calls it that. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney for the Game Boy Advance was a success in Japan, pulling in sales of 62,169 during the first sell period. But Gavin, how could this be deemed as a success when the games usually are deemed successful when they hit 1 million in sales? Well, remember what I said about PW's mission statement last time, to bring visual novels to a larger audience. 62,169 for opening weekend is a good number. In fact, it's good enough that Capcom started developing a sequel to PW immediately. By the time PW was finished, and I apologize for mispronouncing these names, but Shinji Mikami told Shu Takumi to make an Ace Attorney trilogy, with the conclusion being the final case of the third game. Takumi was totally down with this, as he thought there was a lot of room for the series to grow, but he wanted to take a vacation first. However, the asshole Atsushi Iniba told Takumi that he wanted him to write the script for 5 cases in 3.5 months! Takumi hated this, but he somehow pulled it off, minus a case due to cartridge limitation. This cut case would later become recipe for Turnabout in Trials and Tribulations. When Takumi finally finished writing everything, the rest of the development cycle flew by just as quickly. Good lord! This was an intense development cycle. It's awful Takumi had to write 4 cases in such little time. After a hellish and super short development cycle, Justice for All was released on the GBA in Japan in late 2002, and was eventually ported to the DS like the first game for other regions in 2007. So did Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All turn out to be a miracle project, or a disaster as it was practically destined to be? Let's find out, starting with Case 1, The Lost Turnabout. What the hell? That was the most dark and intriguing moment in the entire series at this point. And it's only been the first minute of the game. Wow. Just look at this! This cutscene sets an overwhelming amount of tension and suspense on the scene, and it sets a great example of what we can expect in this sequel, perfectly showing what kind of tone the series is now ready for. Now I know this bit of information will be revealed next scene, but I'll just say it now. This is a dream Phoenix is having, or rather a nightmare. A rendition of JS Bach's organ toccata is playing for some reason, and for an unexplained reason, the judge towers over Mr. Wright and proceeds to threaten a death sentence to Mr. Wright. Phoenix speaks with a terrified tone to it, and right before the dream ends, the judge swings his gavel, assumably on top of Phoenix. Whoa. Well, J.S. Bach's famous piece turns out to be Phoenix's ringtone, or supposedly triggering his nightmare when he fell asleep. Wait, what? Oh my god, Mr. Wright! As you've seen in my analysis of PW last time, you'll remember how much I enjoyed what a buffoon Phoenix can be at times. We will have to see if he matures more in this game than he did last time, but clearly nothing will stop him from sleeping in the defendant lobby right before a trial. It's so hilarious. Well, Phoenix is alive, thankfully, so first off the bat we are introduced to Phoenix's client, a police officer named Maggie Bird. I'm already intrigued to see a police officer being accused of a crime in the Ace Attorney universe. It wouldn't be the first time, mind you, but nonetheless, we all must keep this in mind as we head into the first case of Justice for All. If there's one thing I stressed in the last review, it was that the first cases of every Ace Attorney game serve as tutorials, and more importantly, pale in comparison to the rest of the cases in each game. I just want to say before we go any further that I will be heavily comparing the Lost Turnabout to the first Turnabout when I talk about quality. Anyways, Maggie places great confidence in Mr. Wright, which is kind of cute. Problem is, due to being knocked in the head with a fire extinguisher, Phoenix lost his short-term memory, another really intriguing element. Phoenix actually knows even less that what happened in the short term. Basically, Phoenix forgot how to law. Maggie still shows amazing optimism for Mr. Wright, which is really interesting to see. She says she has terrible things happen in her life, but she always stays optimistic. You know, that's really great, but also very depressing at the same time. With all of this pressure on Mr. Wright, the player goes into the first trial with not much hope. This is similar to the first Turnabout, but in that case, Phoenix was just fresh off the bar. Here, however, Phoenix has an opportunity to show frustration and confusion, making him look even more of an idiot than he already is. So if I come off as harsh on Phoenix, no, I think he's a smart man, and he loves defending the innocent, but he's kind of like that kid in class who always means well, but gets picked on regardless. Anyways, back to the plot. Winston Payne makes a return as prosecutor, no surprise from what I've mentioned in the past. Just a reminder, Payne will be the prosecutor for every first case in the series. So Mr. Payne, what do you got here? So, the case is a romance gone sour. Maggie Bride was dating a police officer named Dustin Prince, and supposedly that's not true according to Maggie, but we'll see that's wrong later. The plot continues on discussing how the crime was committed. The murder weapon was actually nothing. Maggie pushed Dustin off a high area in a local park. Supposedly he broke his neck hitting the ground, but was able to write the killer's name in the sand afterwards. That's very neat. Taking a break from the plot, I want to talk about the characters we have for the Lost Turnabout. First up, as already mentioned, is Maggie Bride. I absolutely adore Maggie. She's a multi-dimensional character who is literally perfect for this case. For one, she understands law and is able to not only guide Mr. Wright because of his lost memory, but teach the player the mechanics of the game at the same time. So essentially, Mr. Wright's memory serves as a tutorial, which goes down easily in the top 5 best uses of tutorials I've ever personally seen, a genius way of blending story and gameplay. Not only is Maggie likable for helping our protagonist and teaching us, but she's very exciting and exuberant. She also shows range of feeling sadness when her bad luck is addressed. Overall, Maggie is fantastic, and I think Capcom knew it. Why? Because she will be returning in future Ace Attorney games. Excellent. Next up is Payne, who is unchanged really from the first game, but I don't think it was necessary to develop him. And then there's Dick Gumshoe, who shows some growth throughout the whole game, so I'll save him for later in the review. Back to the plot. Phoenix starts catching holes in Gumshoe's testimony and essentially makes fun of himself for what he's doing and how he typically does things. Again, hilarious writing we've never seen before in the series. Phoenix absolutely hates how he's objecting, and I think that's funny. Now, I have a small nitpick with this case. The next major turn in the trial takes us between the relationship of Dustin and Maggie, and don't get me wrong, I find it all an interesting read, and some nice filler that I can just relax to take in, but honestly, it's rather poor padding. Some importance comes from it, but Mr. Wright or Payne could easily make a point that they should say, I don't know, focus on how the crime was committed rather than drag this case out. Still though, we have one important plot point to address with the relationship. Was the writing of Maggie's name in the sand not done by Prince? Well, if the two knew each other so well, it means Maggie should have been spelled correctly. I mean, come on. To everyone watching, ask yourself if you know how to spell your parents' name. I hope you know how. This plot point, I really dig. Something about this case just strikes me as really interesting. The first Turnabout lacks any depth at all, lacks any challenge, and any fun. The Lost Turnabout opens with a scary nightmare, continues with brainwashing the main character, introduces a romantic relationship with hit-or-miss success, and an interesting minor character under the name of Maggie Bird, and more. The Lost Turnabout also has traces of a more complex writing style, something I've been a strong supporter of for Ace Attorney since I started playing it. Everything is really great about this case, but before I finish analyzing Case 1, let's wrap up the plot. The court goes in recess with Maggie and Nick discussing matters. Not long after they start discussing, Maya Fey shows up out of nowhere. After a heart-to-heartfelt goodbye in the last game, it's good and, well, okay, fine. Maybe it was really predictable that she'd come back, but, you know, that's good. Although this is actually not the first time Phoenix and Maya actually saw each other in this game, but we'll get back to that in Case 2. So apparently, Maya has some important information for Nick. A group of con artists are around the local area and were hanging out at the park that very day. This gives the player hope that one of the members may be responsible for the murder. Well, let's just see how this— Whoa! It's a fabulous man with a blue blazer. Actually, no, he's not as stuck up as Red White, though he sure has an esteemed aura around him. This is Richard Wellington. He tends to sound very elite, but he also won't shut up at the same time. He's annoying, but I really love his design, and his personality is a fresh take on the series, even if it's a bit unlikable. It turns out Wellington's glasses were the ones found next to Prince. Phoenix uses this as fuel, and Mr. Wellington, the smart and elite man, starts to show how he's really not the man that he lives up to be. He starts to crack immensely, and now it's at this point that it's obvious that he murdered Dustin Prince. Now it's just a matter of proving it. Alright, Phoenix, it's all up to you now. The writers took this moment to inject some realism, which I cannot get enough of. Instead of some lame, "No I didn't," or "Well you're awful because you're accusing me," coming from Wellington, the writers made him actually grow a bigger ego. This also translates to giving the case a difficulty curve, believe it or not. It's likely that players will get caught up in the ego and start to lose confidence. Well, those expectations become true. Richard Wellington's motive was to clear suspicion of being a con artist. Due to his error, he left his phone in the park one day and he tried to call it. He was promised it would be returned to him by the person who picked it up. He saw that a police officer couple was holding his phone and panicked. However, the twist is that he accidentally messed up by grabbing Phoenix Wright's phone, which had a massive consequence to it, dude. So with his past crimes being potentially revealed, he panicked and pushed Dustin off the platform. End of story. So yeah, to clear any confusion, the phone Mr. Wright woke up holding was Wellington's because of the swap. So that wasn't actually his ringtone. You can relax, guys. And of course, because Phoenix had Wellington's phone, Wellington knocked him out cold. It's a very awesome little plot circle, and it's explained really well to the game's credit. Mr. Wright not only puts immense pressure on Wellington, but manages to also make it known that Wellington knocked him out before the trial. Excellent work, Phoenix! After Wellington gets caught one last time, he breaks down. After the trial, Maggie expresses great gratitude and Phoenix feels relieved. It's really sad too because Maggie's terrible misfortunes come into the limelight, and she finally had an occurrence where she didn't lose in the end, all thanks to Phoenix. It's almost worth crying over, it's so sad. And we are only one case in, folks. With a black screen at the very end, Phoenix reveals that before the events of the Lost Turnabout, he and Maya met up 2 months prior for another case. And that case is Case 2 of Justice for All. So, that was the Lost Turnabout. Now my thoughts. Absolutely fan-flipping-tastic first case. The atmosphere is really well done. The whole case has a foreboding atmosphere thanks to Mr. Wright's dilemmas before the trial began. And let's not ignore the pictures of the park we see in the evidence. Now, like the last game, seeing these images and reading them being discussed after the murder happened does not stop them from not being immersive. It's very immersive, and I adore the park and the atmosphere of the gang. It's a small thing, but it really matters to me a lot, even if it's really subjective. Something else I didn't talk about yet, the plot itself. I think this case has a perfect blend of both simplicity, depth, humor, and seriousness that makes an amazing first case. Now I know what it sounds like. I keep demoting this case on principle of it being a first case. I'm doing that only to analyze what makes a great introductory case for the series. This is great to see! Justice for All starts out amazing, especially in comparison to its predecessor. Maybe the short development time didn't hurt the game in the end somehow. Who knows? Instead of diving into Case 2, let's take a break and talk about the entire game's presentation. Justice for All runs on the same engine as PW and doesn't make any major changes to flow or graphics. Any sprites from the first game, aka repeated backgrounds or returning characters, are the exact same as their PW counterparts, kind of in a similar vein to Mega Man X4, X5, and X6, though with even less alteration. Ripping a sprite of Phoenix Wright from PW and from JFA, well, they're the same. This isn't a bad thing at all because I praise the visuals of the first game, and I would even go as far to say that the new characters and new backgrounds see great improvement. I'll leave that one up to the viewers though. One thing for sure that has improved in JFA's presentation is the animations and cutscenes. I'm happy to see these received excellent improvement. One thing has definitely changed between games, and that's the soundtrack. The music pieces in JFA fit the same requirements. But what do I mean by that? If the first game has an investigation opening theme, so does JFA. If the first game has an objection theme, so does JFA. You get the point. The change comes from the instrumentation, where us spoiled players get more sounds being worked with, and to my delight, higher quality instrumentation to boot. Yay! And now, it's time to commence the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All soundtrack battle! Overall, JFA's soundtrack beats out the original by a long shot. Now here's why. I find these pieces a lot more inspired to begin with. PW's soundtrack was overall very catchy and had a variety of moods to fit the current situation, something I frankly did not praise enough last time around. But take a look at JFA's. The soundtrack is much more darker and even more moody. There's also some happy pieces in the games, and others that have both happy and sad elements, such as Won the Case 2002. Now let me ask you, doesn't this fit perfectly with the victory Nick achieved in the Lost Turnabout? Come on, think about it. Maggie with this theme too. Overall, while comparing the soundtracks is going into too subjective territory for my liking, I thought I'd at least explain what the composer was going for. Oh, and yes, this game's soundtrack was composed by someone other than the composer of the original. Enough stalling. We have another case to analyze. Justice for All has only 4 cases, which means a couple of things for Reunion and Turnabout. Number 1, I'm going to treat this case critically as a third case. Number 2, this case continues plot threads from Turnabout Sisters, so I'll be potentially harsh on the execution of that. And 3, this case features dark moments in similar veins to DL6 and SL9. I'm beyond intrigued to find out how all of this turns out, and I hope you are too. Easily one of the densest non-final cases we've seen yet. Reunion and Turnabout. We see a girl talk about being drugged and killed in a car accident, with Maya Fey being held in detention center for suspect of something. As Maya says, this is her first encounter with Phoenix since their goodbyes in PW. Well, the f***. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Turner Gray. Dr. Turner Gray. This man is one of my favorite characters in the entire series. Let me tell you why. His design is really cool. The green tie with the brown blazer. And seeing Turner's glasses fall down his nose and see him push it back up quickly never ever gets old. He goes from being extremely warm sounding and calm to being angry and making this face. What's with your hand, Doctor? Okay, I love how unique the start of the case is. Basically, Dr. Gray comes to Mr. Wright's offices looking for help. At Dr. Gray's clinic, there were 14 patients killed due to malpractice, but his nurse was responsible, not him. Just the newspaper he brought to Phoenix shows dread. Perhaps we will see more darkness later. Phoenix listens to Dr. Gray as he explains how his nurse died in a car accident. He shows no remorse for her at all, it seems. Phoenix reflects on how he heard about his happening a year ago, and that the public blamed Dr. Gray for her death. Oh my god. The reason Dr. Gray waited until now to speak up is because his business is starting to go, well, out of business. And Turner, Phoenix, and we all know full well why that is. Now this gets interesting. Dr. Gray knows about Maya and Phoenix working together, so he wants Maya to spiritually channel the nurse. So Phoenix agreed to take Dr. Gray to her hometown. The two arrive and see a shy little girl. Perhaps a sibling? Ah, Maya! Phoenix and Maya finally have their reunion, and it's as great as it sounds. Maya introduced her cousin Pearl, and she's actually a new main character for the series, so you hear a lot about her later. Turns out inside the buildings, Dr. Gray shows Nick that he actually knows more about the village than he does. Is it just me, or do I picture Phoenix feeling like a complete idiot here? Mr. Wright then goes into the channeling room and meets Maya's aunt, and mother of Pearl Faye, Morgan Faye. Okay, major plot dump moment for the rest of the series, folks. Hold on to your hats. Okay. So, Maya contains the blood, aka the descendant of the family line who harnesses the Kurain channeling technique. I know I'm saying that wrong, calm down. Basically, Maya's family are the truly powerful ones, which includes not only Maya, but Mia Faye and Misty Faye. You know, Turnabout Sisters, Misty Faye? Now Morgan explains that she really wants her daughter Pearl to receive the chance to be crowned the next descendant. A sort of mother-to-daughter trope here. Let me stop and say I absolutely love all of this. I love the mystery surrounding the Fays and the village. For those who are unaware, Reunion and Turnabout is considered the second case of a Fae saga. Basically, there are 3 cases in the Phoenix Wright trilogy that puts the Fays into the limelight and elaborates on the mysteries to be solved. The first case of the Fae saga is Turnabout Sisters, the second being this case, and the third actually being the final case of the third game. To recap, we learned in Turnabout Sisters that Misty Faye has gone missing due to society rejecting her, including law enforcement. We also started our understanding of the spiritual channeling techniques Maya has. That's what we learned. Now, we have more to add, so I enlighten you to follow on the path to understanding the Fae lore, as well as keeping up with the rest of the case. Thank you. After Phoenix learns about the lore, Morgan tells him that Maya will be able to channel with Dr. Gray shortly. Phoenix, being the man to always know the right thing, leaves Morgan to arrange things and explores more of the village. Oh, hey Lotta, didn't know you shared such a curiosity in the Kurain culture. Well, so far this is a splendid investigation segment to open the case up, and I really have no criticisms whatsoever. And now look, as the channeling occurs, everyone in the foyer hears a gunshot coming from the room. Everyone starts panicking, the suspense hits ludicrous levels for the player as well. Phoenix, despite being against Morgan's wishes, barges in, breaks the door down. We see Maya. Or is that Maya? Maya looks weird, to say the least, and Turner Gray is... No! You killed Turner Gray! Capcom, why? Rest in peace, man. You're always one of my favorites. Morgan yells at Phoenix and Lotta to run out of the room and call the police. She's going to take care of things in the room. This actually surprisingly leads to great character development between Phoenix and Lotta. It's just the two of them outside, waiting for the police all alone and scared. Soon enough, Dick Gumshoe arrives to handle matters. Phoenix continues doing a private investigation and finds the room occupied with this weird chick who looks like she has nothing to do with anything. Meet Eeny Meeny. Great name. Gumshoe tells Phoenix that the investigation is going to take a while, and we really have to understand that Phoenix is going through a lot right now. More than just getting hit with a fire extinguisher. The problem with how the story is told with the crime is that there isn't a lot of answers to previous questions. As in, there's too much for the player to take in at this point, with Pearl, the village, Eeny Meeny, the crime, etc. A bit too much, but all to be revealed later, I guess. Very, very dense case. Phoenix meets with Maya in the detention center and they have a bit of a heart-to-heart discussion with one another. Maya tries to recollect what happened in the chamber, but to no avail. After all, that would be helpful to the player. Sorry not to burn you, Maya, but oh well. Finally, we get properly introduced to Pearl Faye, and she's actually really cute, if a bit of an emotional mess at times. Well, she's not even 10 years old, so let's cut her some slack. She begs Nick to take this relic of hers called the Magatama, which Nick reluctantly takes from Maya later. We will see this in action, but believe it or not, guys, this relic will enable us to enter a new gameplay feature never seen before. Awesome! Dick Gumshoe's been hard at work on the investigation, still lovable and dedicated, by the way. Oh, wait a second! I think I remember in PW, Gumshoe told Phoenix before the first trial the second case about how Edgeworth is going to make an appearance. Well, this time we know that Edgeworth is gone. He either committed suicide, like he said in his letter, or he left the country to go find himself. So I'm proud to say that we have a brand new prosecutor and a brand new main character. Gumshoe reveals it's the daughter of Manfred von Karma. Ouch. The daughter of that bastard. Okay. Just introduce her already. Her name is Franziska von Karma, and according to Gumshoe, she became a prosecutor when she was 13 in Germany. Holy smokes! Phoenix Wright, you better hope to God you can win. Of course, this scares the living crap out of Phoenix, but he continues looking through Karain Village. You'll never guess who he runs into. It's Eni. This time, however, the Magatama activates. Enter the Psych-Lock system. Basically, this is how you break lies in investigation segments. Similarly to how cross-examinations are handled, you must present evidence to the person's statements, but you must do so for every lock. Also, the more locks, the bigger the secret, making it both frightening and intimidating the more locks there are. I absolutely love this mechanic as it spices up the investigation segments a lot more. Just listen to the music. It turns out Eenie Meenie is the sister of Minnie, and they were both in that car the very night. Eenie fell asleep and woke up when the car crashed, while Eenie survived. That is rough. Her sister couldn't handle the stress of the malpractices and being blamed for them. It's so tragic, but there's a lot more to what Eenie is telling us now, and some of that is actually flat out untrue. To be continued then. Ladies and gentlemen, the trial shall begin. With Maya and Pearl supporting Wright, here we go. And how do you viewers expect me to continue the plot further without introducing our brand new main character? Meet Franziska von Karma. She claims to be a prodigy and that she left her amazing career in Germany to come to America just to fight Phoenix in court and get revenge for essentially killing Manfred, her father. Pressure is f***ing on. While it's impossible to not know about Franziska before playing JFA, I was still really excited that she would be the main prosecutor for the game. I love Franziska's design, her cold-looking eyes, bluish hair. Overall, she has a very professional and cold appearance, just like her father. Now, many fans have proclaimed that she's just a whiny bitch all the time, and I agree only sometimes. Other times she can seem rather vulnerable, and other times as well, she can be calm and just kind of going through the motions. Sometimes she's cocky, reserved, playful, you name it. For people to call this character one-dimensional tells me they didn't pay attention while playing the game. Now I'm going to speed things up in terms of covering the plot of Reunion and Turnabout. I had a lot of remarkable things to say for the beginning of the case, but I'll leave more out from here to the end. Something really worth addressing is the atmosphere of the courtroom. Something about the darkness of the cases in JFA and Franziska's elite aura makes this courtroom feel bigger and grander than it was in PW. Am I alone in saying that? Let me know in the comments if you feel the same way. We've seen already how much darker JF is than PW, and it only gets darker to the credits, of course. I just get these vibes from the game all the time. Just listen to the cross-examination moderato for JFA. It sounds so gorgeous and calm, but has an element of sadness to it. Hey, maybe in this short and hellish development cycle, Takumi was able to make 4 amazing cases, and the best yet in the series, but in how such short and pressurized time did he master the atmosphere? It really blows my mind. Franziska whips the hell out of Phoenix, Gumshoe, and the judge, which is hilarious but also kind of upsetting. She seems to have control over the entire trial, but unlike Manfred, where it just got tiring, Franziska never holds down the entire courtroom. Call it Phoenix growing as a lawyer, but she seems to lose the upper hand more often, which I do not take points away from Franziska in that regard, I only add that as a bonus for Mr. Wright. With Mr. Wright calling out a major flaw, Franziska goes berserk. There's too much filler in this trial segment for my liking. Don't get me wrong, important things are dispersed, but the developers could have trimmed a good 20 minutes, and that even would be a little nice to say. With more evidence needed, the judge postpones the trial for the end of the day, giving Phoenix and Franziska more time to prep. I really have to praise the back and forth nature between Phoenix and Franziska. It's a very underrated character relationship in the series. Wright and Edgeworth had other things going for them, but they never went "objection" in such a rapid succession or would cut each other off so much. Slow progress is made and then something really exciting happens. Morgan Fay is caught kneeling and speaking creepily to a picture of Pearl, saying things about how nothing will stop Pearl from becoming— oh. Yeah, I think we have our murderer, folks. Also, Pearl turns out to be hiding a secret. I sense something absolutely terrible. Thankfully, Pearl just broke an important urn. I know that sounds bad, but, it could have been a lot worse, right? It adds to her cuteness how she's so worried about it. Nick tells her everything's going to be okay. Lotta tells Nick that he should go to Dr. Hottie clinics to learn—
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
I'm not going to say anything, I'm just gonna make you all watch. After some more investigation, Phoenix hears some secrets from Mia Fey. Mia helps Phoenix nail the blame for Gray's murder on Eenie Meenie. That makes sense. This case is clever enough to distract the players from realizing it, but Eenie has a great motive for killing Dr. Gray. Dr. Gray essentially drove her to her death, just indirectly. So, revenge. Well, let's see how this case ends, and then I'll give my final thoughts on Reunion and Turnabout. Franziska is beyond cocky at this point, looking to nail Wright in the grave. The first witness is predictable, Morgan Fay. Morgan testifies about how she blanked out and didn't really know much of anything. Sure. Then Franziska shocks the world by having Eenie Meenie testify. Little did she know, this is where she begins to fall from grace. Eenie was actually hiding in a box inside the chamber before the channeling began, and from behind the curtain, so to speak, she shot Gray. Eenie shows her true colors and actually plays as a sympathetic villain. We, the player, feel bad because she lost her sister Eenie. Yeah, that's right, you heard that correctly. The whole time, we have been looking at Minnie. Well then, case closed. Except Franziska gets really pissed. After the case properly ends with a celebration, we see one of the most disturbing cutscenes. In her jail cell, Morgan speaks of getting revenge and still having Pearl become the dominant member of the Fae clan. Oh my god, that's scary. Phew, and that was Reunion and Turnabout. I warned you it was dense, didn't I? Judging it for continuing the Fae saga, it's brilliant. Judging it for being on par with Turnabout Samurai, absolutely blows that case out of the water. However, there are some problems here. The pacing is a bit poor with a ton of filler, especially in the middle and end of the case. It really could have benefited from trimming the fat. That said, there's still a lot to digest. And while it was a shocking turn of events, a part of me didn't want Turner Gray to die. He was so entertaining. Well, so far, Justice for All in terms of case strength and atmosphere is absolutely killing it in comparison to PW. It's no secret that this game is the one that got me hooked on the series. But oh boy, the next case is Turnabout Big Top, one of, if not the most despised, panned, and hated cases in the entire franchise. Considered to be the lowest point in the Ace Attorney series, and overall destroyed by fans. Let's take an intermission like the previous review. We've covered a lot, and I don't think anyone needs to necessarily watch this review in one sitting unless you'd like to, so by all means, go to the bathroom, get some tea, grab a snack. Welcome back, folks! I present to you Turnabout Big Top. Unlike Case 1 and Case 2's intro, I really don't have all that much to say about this one. It has a really exciting feel to it, and it's very visually stunning for the hardware. With that said, we can take a look at the new setting. Welcome to Very Big Circus. The name comes from the ringleader who was murdered, sadly. The case starts out with Nick simply taking Myra and Pearl out to the carnival. I adore this music piece that plays here. Right off the bat, the best thing about the case is revealed. Yep, the atmosphere. Never before have I been so awestruck and emotional about a circus. The music tastes of a somber one with a bittersweet melody to it, and it's absolutely essential to describing this case, tone, and atmosphere as a whole. The snow looks gorgeous everywhere, and I'm in love with the colorful and joyful look of the circus. After a nice night of bonding between the three aforementioned characters, Wright receives a phone call from Maya saying that the ringmaster was murdered, and the accused is Max Galactica, the man who we saw in the intro cutscene flying. Yes, I said man. He's a man, folks. Get over it. He's just a man who looks fabulous and wears a pink... Okay, enough of that joke. Now, many fans have an issue with Max. These people say that Max is annoying, unhelpful, and weird. Let's address each of these points. First of all, Max is absolutely weird. That's the whole point. Second, are there really any helpful defendants? And third, this adds to our growing understanding of Phoenix's low tolerance for these kinds of people. Now, if you find him annoying, well, I got nothing, but I sure hope you don't mind that I do. He's not a 10 out of 10 character, but who cares? Perfectly suitable for me. I'll jump ahead to the other characters. Something everyone has to like about Turnabout Big Top is how all of the minor characters are, well, they're a part of the circus. Now, Capcom could make this really lame or hit this idea out of the park. They did the latter. We have a clown who laughs at his own corny jokes, an awkward stuttering ventriloquist, an upbeat girl with many flaws, and a calm and collected acrobat. If that's not an interesting cast, I don't know what is. Mo is the easiest to cover. His corny jokes make him laugh. Not because the jokes are funny, but I find it humorous just how he laughs at his own jokes, and really no one around him likes him. Man, Justice for All wants you to hate people in this game. Then again, that was something they tried and failed to do in the first game, so props to them this time. Phoenix is really not thrilled to talk to this guy. Later, Mo testifies and it's a massive mess. Regina is cute, but a bit too sassy for my liking. Not bad by any means, just my least favorite. Acro I will save for the plot, so hold up a second. And now my favorite. Benjamin f***ing Woodman. This man rocks. It's sad I find a stuttering and shy man so funny, but the game does play it up for laughs, like with Mo. His design twitching, just look at him. And it's funny because he beats himself up with his own puppet named Trillo. So is the awkward Benjamin just a facade? I don't know, but he's a really interesting man. Back to the plot, Phoenix and Maya run into Dick Gumshoe and we learn a bit more about Franziska and the crime. But first is Gumshoe himself. We know from PW that he gets very depressed at times about his financial situation and social issues even, but in this game, especially this scene, we see Gumshoe really get down in the dumps. Sadly, it seems like this poor guy is getting worse as the games progress. Well, evidence. The crime photo shows Russell Berry slumped over a box. Huh. Spoiling it now, but Berry was killed because this large box fell on top of him and crushed him. Brutal much? Jeez. Now Gumshoe talks of Franziska von Karma whipping him and other people in the precinct all the time. Man, she is really after getting her revenge. Many players miss this, but this scene in Turnabout Big Top is supposed to show that Franziska is trying very hard to live up to his father's excellence, which includes what we are hearing. Maya asks Gumshoe indirectly about Miles Edgeworth. This is all filled. Time to find out what happened to him. Gumshoe implies that Edgeworth went through with the suicide. Capcom even goes as far to play the DL6 theme during this scene. Oh man. The emotions are too much to put into words. Gumshoe talks about the crime scene some more. Max was supposedly flying away from Barry's body when he committed the deed. Really? Human flight? Unbelievable. It's unrealistic, which is exactly what to expect from the series, but this breaks the series' own rules. Well, it obviously won't break its own rules. No one flew. Obvious, but that doesn't mean some trickery was involved to trick people like Mo into believing the flight. Well, that's kind of clever then. Heading back to Max, Phoenix uncovers a secret he was holding on to. There's a love triangle between Ben, Regina, and Max. Now here's a major criticism. The love triangle stuff I'm not finding very convincing here.
Gavin, this is the second time in this game you said that love was poorly implemented.
I know, man. I know. Not sure what it is with JFA and poor relationship implementation, but whatever. More romance until we meet back with Mo, who shows Nick and Maya Acro's room. And that's all for the first investigation segment. It's less dramatic than the one for Reunion and Turnabout, with more getting into the nitty-gritty. Nice change of pace, I must say. With Franziska more pissed and entertaining than she has been this whole game, and Phoenix still growing to be a better lawyer by the day, let's begin the trial. Before the murder, Ben, or rather Trillo, interestingly testifies about seeing Max walk to the dressing rooms where the crime would happen not long after, just next door of the dressing room building. Ben was waiting for Regina at the time to propose to her. Phoenix used logic to deduce that Trillo wouldn't have looked out for anyone but Regina, which Trillo actually admits. The next witness is Mo, and as stated before, he testifies about how he saw the hatted and clothed Max fly away. There were a lack of footprints at the time, but this didn't stop the judge from calling off the trial for more investigation, something that Phoenix could use, but I don't know about Franziska. I just despise how she got away with Mo, and Mo was blamed instead of Franziska. Well, I'm supposed to feel that way, so no points taken off. Turnabout Big Top is so far a pretty decent case. I'd say not as good as the last one, but certainly serviceable. However, the best parts are saved for last, and I will explain why I think this case is the best non-final case thus far in the series. Franziska runs into Phoenix in the second investigation segment, where he feels once again terrified at her whip's mercy. And what? She needs to meet Miles Edgeworth! It's no secret to anyone who followed the Von Karma family closely up until this point, but the news finally breaks out that Miles is Franziska's half-brother. They both shared Manfred as their father figure, you know what I mean. Franziska then goes to show how dark this game is once again by blaming Phoenix for Miles' choice of death. My god! Well, I suppose that means he's alive, but then where? Moving on, Acro is introduced to us. After many psych-locks become broken by collecting the facts, Acro's dark past that has haunted him for an eternity is revealed by Mo. 6 months ago, Acro's brother Bat was training with the lion found in the Big Top until one tragic day occurred. Regina fooled around with Bat and told him to put his head inside the lion's mouth, and Regina sprayed pepper on the lion, and you can see where this is going. The day after the accident, the ringmaster took Leon out and shot him with a rifle. Bat has been in a coma for months now, and Acro struggles to live his life out. How tragic. As the pieces come together, it was easy for Wright to see that Acro had a motive. But for killing Regina, not Russell. Russell, in fact, took Acro and his brother in when they were young children. How could Acro do something like that, then? Let's finish the case with the final trial. Acro was put under pressure by Phoenix, but Acro and Franziska were hell-bent on defending the fact that Acro couldn't have killed him being in a wheelchair. It was also revealed that Acro's height wouldn't be tall enough to see outside the window. Aha! Phoenix became even smarter and used this to end the case once and for all. Hiding the bus under his wheelchair, he suspected Regina was walking outside that night and found the perfect opportunity to kill her. But because he couldn't see out the window, he didn't know who was there and ended up killing the ringmaster. Wow, he murdered the wrong person by mistake. Justice for All is so dark, it's almost too much to even handle at this point. Acro gives us the full story, this time to the court in a very sympathetic way. Just watch. Major criticism fans have, Acro shows up out of nowhere near the end of the case, which makes him an obvious villain. Despite this, he doesn't need to be as subtle as long as he has something really good about him, and that can give us sympathetic emotions for him. With that settled, Phoenix feels accomplished and Max is relieved. The entire gang at Very Big Circus decides that they will continue on without the ringmaster and become closer together. Aw, how sweet. All in all, I find Turnabout Big Top an amazing case. Did you rage at my analysis of it? It's got a lot of filler, which is why I spent less time on it than I did for Case 2, but other than that, and maybe the beginning not mattering much to the plot, the highs are high in this one. But it's not over yet! He's back, folks! With all of this leading up to the final case of Justice for All, let's recap what we have building up to this game's finale. We have a growing relationship between Nick, Maya, and Pearl, Gumshoe making us feel more and more sorry for him, Franziska getting more and more scary, Edgeworth returning to America alive, and a plot that gets darker as the games go on, and lastly, a rising sense of depressing atmosphere that triggers strong emotions from the player. Without further ado, farewell, my Turnabout. Wow. Now, I forgot to say this earlier, but this is deemed the best case in the entire series. Calling it a fan favorite doesn't do this case justice. Now, another thing. This review would be even longer than it is now if I didn't skip some details. I'm sorry, but this is a long and detailed case. I have to skip things. So the intro shows a contest for the Grand Prix champion. We see our gang at a beautiful ballroom inside the Gatewater Hotel. Sound familiar? It's the same hotel April May was staying at in PW, so we are literally across the street from the Wright & Co. law offices. Phoenix, Maya, and Pearl are incredibly excited. Why? Well, the Nickel Samurai was the winner of the Grand Prix, and the man behind the costume, Matt Ungard, is holding a press conference in the hotel that evening. I love all the world building in this case. Speaking of world building, hey, Will Powers, nice to see him again. The trio move on and meet Wendy Oldbag. Yep, she's here and working as a security guard. Back in Viola Hall, there's a creepy man with stitches down his entire face. This bellboy is a stark contrast to the bellboy from PW. Moving right along, we meet Gumshoe and Lotta in the hallways. Jeez, who isn't in this case? Gumshoe breaks the news that a murder took place in the dressing room right after the awards ceremony. The victim was Juan Corrida, the actor of the Jammin' Ninja, which to no one's surprise, Matt Ungard was arrested for murdering. Will Powers is devastated to hear this, and you have to imagine how tense the situation is right now. The murderer is still in the hotel, supposedly. The bellboy tells Will to hand Phoenix a transceiver. What the hell? Phoenix takes it and it calls him. Watch what happens. I'm going to roll a long clip. This is going beyond boundaries. This is really, really, really dark. There's so much tension and the premise is now set for the case. One lingering question that Phoenix Wright will have to answer. Save Maya or accuse the guilty. Next, we actually play as Maya and we see her in a wine cellar in an unknown location. The atmosphere of where she is locked up is frightful. My hands actually shook during my first playthrough. The assassin reveals himself. Wow, it was the butler. Meet Shelly the Killer, one of the most evil, dark, and scary characters in gaming media. I assume you've played this game if you reached this far, so I don't think I need to justify the bold claim I just laid out. The Killer mysteriously tells Maya she has been kidnapped by him for business purposes. A client paid the Killer for, well, something, and distracting Mr. Wright had to do with it. Already seeing something clever here, Pearl and Phoenix grieve together until they decide it would be best if they met their client, obviously being Mr. Matt Ungard. He's a great character. Very dude bro kind of guy, but not to an offensive degree. Again, we see JFA's signature double tone style. On one hand, it's funny to see Ungard get distracted and talk like he is uninterested, but on the other hand, it's really annoying because Mr. Wright is in a dire situation and could use any help from Ungard. Justice for all, you sneaky, clever bastard. Moving right along, Phoenix and Pearls talk to some peeps and we get more evidence and all that good stuff. Now, before I jump to the first trial, I found a couple interactions in this investigation segment very much worth mentioning. First off is meeting a character named Adrian Andrews, who was the agent of Juan Corrida. She comes off as rude and uptight, even hiding something behind 4 Cyclocks. I'll be focusing on her later and why I think she is a great asset to this case. The second interaction is one of Franziska and Gumshoe. I bring this up because when people like to cite these two's relationship, as well as Franziska's general demeanor, everyone points to this scene as like the default example. All I have is praise and some empathy for Gummy. And I lied about there being only a couple standout moments. There are more. Wendy Oldbag gives us some detail on why she blames Adrian for the murder. And an "Oh Lord, he's back!" To further elaborate on what Miles was saying, he did not choose death but rather to find himself abroad. He came back for the sole reason of Franziska's failures. As much as he seems to have evolved from the Von Karma style and hates his father, Miles seems to still have a slight sibling-like attachment to Franziska, which is always cleverly woven in, by the way. Case in point, Franziska needs some help and really hasn't accomplished her goal of taking down Wright or getting any revenge. So Edgeworth is just gonna kinda take over. Sorry, Franziska. Later, Adrian Andrews will be forced to talk about the suicide of the only friend she had. This woman was Celeste Inpax, a woman loved by Ungard, Corrida, and Andrews. Edgeworth showed how he is really caught up on the case and came up with a hypothesis of where her suicide note went. Potentially Corrida had possession of it. And now, Adrian must tell Mr. Wright everything. See the pain and suffering. That image of Celeste hanging herself, with Corrida looking petrified. How can things go so wrong? The trial begins. Welcome back to the bench, Miles. Gumshoe testifies that Juan and Matt have been rivals for years, and through the construction of the crime scene, Edgeworth takes the upper hand quite cleanly. Phoenix is scared as usual, but has grown confidence, of course. Now, Edgeworth didn't pick his witnesses, really. Important to note, Edgeworth is only filling in for Franziska, mainly because he thinks he can do a better job. So, all of Franziska's plans are unchanged. Now, why do I bring up this very minor detail? Because this justifies why Wendy Oldbag is going to testify for us. Edgeworth, oh, just watch him die inside. I bet Phoenix and the judge are just as excited. Alright, here's a flaw. While it's very much intentional of Oldbag's testimonies along with what's true and what's not is a complete mess. Okay, that statement didn't even make sense itself, But the point is, all of Bag's testimonies are intentionally confusing, but it's just so confusing that I honestly don't understand all of it even today. Again, I know it was intentional, but even on my playthrough for this review, I was confused. I didn't really understand how it tied into the plot. The trial is about to close and Phoenix is unsure of what's going to happen next. Due to inaccuracies, the judge delays the trial for a day. This is for once actually a bad thing. Here's a detail I left for now. Shelley the Killer told Mr. Wright that if Matt and Gar didn't receive a not guilty verdict on the first day, then Maya dies. Oh crap! Phoenix begins to beg the judge, but to no avail. Look at you, Edgeworth. Aware of Wright's dilemma, he convinces the judge to continue the trial. Immense character growth in Miles. He's so much more kind and so much less Von Karma in comparison to his appearance in PW. Adrian Andrews testifies and the tension builds in the courtroom. Despite all Adrian has suffered through, without Wright knowing, Phoenix really slams her badly. He is certain that she murdered Mr. Corrida and he starts to get her to crack. Almost, but not quite to the mental level of when Celeste died. Then something crazy happened. The players are thrown in for a loop when Edgeworth's ruthlessness comes back with a vengeance. Beyond what even Manfred has said, he belittles, harasses, slanders, confronts, annihilates, destroys, and demolishes Adrian. In a video game, I have never seen someone say such unbelievable things. Adrian Andrews then gives in testifying about the juicy things behind the scenes in this case, but not after pleading the fifth. Not to make a joke to ruin the mood, but I was expecting at least one witness in the series to plead the fifth. The following segment shows Mr. Wright and the gang visiting Francisca in Dr. Hottie's clinic. Why? She was shot in the shoulder. Yes, suspected to be by Shelley the Killer himself. If you aren't scared of the assassin now, I don't know what will. Under the not at all suspicious name of John Doe, we meet Matt and Guard's butler. Why are we here? It's because Matt asked Wright to feed his cat. Weird, I know. Well, Wright definitely recognizes Shelley from the Gatewater Hotel, but keep in mind he has not seen the man in the assassin outfit, I call it. So yeah, the assassin is just right in front of him and the little girl Pearl. Damn, Capcom. Am I ever allowed to just relax during this case? Always something keeping me on the edge of my seat. Also spoiling it, the door to the right is the cellar Maya is in. Yep. The mysterious area is just Matt's house. I wonder if Matt and Shelley have a business deal or something. Plot happens and then we finally revisit Matt in the detention center. After breaking a lot of locks with cold hard evidence the blue brilliant attorney has collected, Matt and Guard quits the face he's been putting on the whole time. Even known by casual gamers and people most unfamiliar with this franchise, this is one of Ace Attorney's most famous and well-known moments, when Matt reveals he's a villain. And not only that, but he's mentally messed up too. Jaw-dropping twist. Maya is seemingly going to die, and Miles remembers he has a heart. He helps Phoenix and Pearls find her. They literally break into the mansion's wine cellar with armed policemen and escort Maya. Jesus Christ! Well, at least they attempt to escort Maya, but sadly that did not work out well, and Shelley the Killer ran with Maya. I really can't know if you guys are getting just how insanely dark and shocking this case is at times. I've done this a lot in the video already, but I need to apologize for not being able to cover the whole case and all the plot. I'm sure you're cool with it by now, but I'm going to die just writing the script, and, well, let's just get to the trial. The suicide note of Impax is found and analyzed in the courtroom. You know that lovable Detective Dick Gumshoe? Well, guess what? He is leading the entire Los Angeles Police Department in finding and hopefully murdering Shelley the Killer during this trial. But Ungard cannot be found guilty, of course. Shelley is running away with Maya. Gumshoe calls Phoenix in the middle of the trial. My heart sinks. What could be happening? Gumshoe calls them later as he is literally chasing the killer. He's speeding through every red light, nearly killing himself and everyone around him to get to the courthouse with evidence. Oh my god. He has 3 pieces of evidence to bring which the killer mistakenly left in the hideout. Welcome to the final trial. Through complicated means, the killer testifies to the court through a walkie-talkie. The killer threatens to kill people many times, and not a whole lot of progress is made despite this being the final trial. You can really feel both Phoenix and Edgeworth working themselves and wording themselves very carefully. They're on thin ice. Phoenix has to decide, despite the dilemma, whether to continue defending Matt, who we all know clearly has admitted to paying the killer to murder his samurai rival, with this giving Maya a chance to live. Or Phoenix can go with the other route and go for justice and let Edgeworth drive Matt into hell. After all, we know Phoenix has incredible morals, but what will he do in this situation? It's such a great question. How could this game be called Justice for All if there's only one good option? Well, breaking in at the last second with an injured shoulder is Francisca. Gumshoe is alive, thankfully, but the car accident has led to him being hospitalized. However, the man didn't go down easily. He handed Francisca the 3 pieces of evidence the assassin left behind. Way to go, Gumshoe. Way to go, Francisca. Now here comes the final challenge. Phoenix needs to choose the correct piece of evidence to close up the case for good. If he chooses wrong here, no matter what the health bar says, you will get a bad ending. And by God, I pray you got it right. The videotape is the key, and so is presenting it to Shelly the killer. Sadly, Shelly gets away free, but that doesn't take away from the game's ending, as we all knew there was nothing we could do to find him and convict him. Will he reappear in games after JFA? Only time will tell. With Matt left, Phoenix. Guilty or not guilty? Ungard loses and Maya will be freed. Why? Oh, it's simple actually. Here's how this is called justice for all. The killer has a code with his clients. If they expose the killer, they die. So by choosing not guilty, this means the code has been broken and that, and we know this is disturbing, the killer will hunt down Matt and terminate him. No matter where he runs, he will be hunted, and Maya will be free. Phoenix Wright and Miles Edgeworth both give an overdue and well-owed apology to Adrian Andrews, who has been nearly driven to suicide from Farewell My Turnabout's plot alone. Maya is back, and all of the main characters talk together, including Mia Fey. Back at Gatewater, we see an injured but smiling Gumshoe. What a good man. Phoenix sincerely thanks Edgeworth for his cooperation. Edgeworth kindly accepts and shows gratitude. These two really helped each other out. Major credit to Phoenix for taking the weight of the entire case this whole time, and credit to Edgeworth for developing even beyond what we saw in Turnabout Goodbyes. And with that, the credits. Oh, but we have a special but important after-credit scene to analyze. At the airport, Francisca is ready to go back to Germany and leave everyone behind, but not without an incredibly emotional conversation with her half-brother. Please take it in. that was that. The little piece of evidence she will treasure until she meets Wright again. Wow. It's such a powerful moment, and another of the most famous and recognizable scenes in the series. Franziska, while seemed to be reserved at times and witty at times on her own will, she classifies herself as the way Edgeworth only sees her, a whiny bitch who abides by her corrupt and deceased father. This scene houses much deep meaning, and we will revisit this scene at least 2 more times in Ace Attorney Analyzation. All I have to add for now is that it appears that Franziska is saddened that she can't evolve like Miles did. She thinks she cannot escape the Von Karma way, not when she's been raised like this for almost her entire life. And it's really sad to see. Well, it's all up to your belief. Tell me in the comments below who you side with here and why. Do you side with Franziska, that she has been so enthralled into the Von Karma family that she will never be able to change? Or do you side with Miles and think that if he and Adrian could escape their old ways, that she could too? Also, please ignore her future appearances. Take a side, pretending this scene is all we have to guess upon. Farewell, my Turnabout. For as ambitious, dark, long, dense, and complicated it is, well, no major flaws. It's no wonder people call this the best case in the series, and you know what, I have to agree. It's not my favorite, but at an analytical standpoint, there's not much wrong here. Now, the trial segments is where the quality seems to dip a bit in this case. Anything that comes out of Wendy's mouth made no sense, and after completing the case, a lot of time is constant tension building, and you'll notice that when you reflect upon your case. Little substance there, but it's a nitpick's nitpick. Also a flaw. I think while having a huge cast of characters is awesome, with literally all of them being exceptional, I won't pretend that this case couldn't go on without the likes of Lotta Hart, Will Powers, and even Wendy Oldbag. Now to praise Farewell My Turnabout, there is next to no filler, which is crazy for a case like this. The drama is at an all new level, and if we compare this case as a whole to Turnabout Goodbyes and Rise from the Ashes, this case feels twice the quality of those, which is saying a lot. I still firmly believe that, despite the filler, Rise from the Ashes stands the test of time as a final case for the rest of the series, but Farewell My Turnabout just cannot be beat. And that ending, a beautiful atmospheric way to close the game wonderfully, but also reminding you of the atmosphere and tone unique to Justice for All. Man, I can't see this case ever being topped. Truly a pleasure to have it exist in the Ace Attorney series. Justice for All's biggest addition and most unique factor to the Ace Attorney series is its use of atmosphere. Dark moments, moments of dread, tenderness, anything very touching is plentiful in every game in the series. But Justice for All has something unique to it, and while that may seem too subjective for this analysis, I'm far from the only one who feels this way. The humor in this game's writing has always a dark undertone to it. Always. Even the ending isn't really a happy one, at least not for Franziska and Miles. The music sees this the most, with both the dual-tone mood as well as surprisingly more songs in minor scales, at least having sadder tones. Compared to BW, this game features a lot more drama with a lot less comedy. The stakes are also higher than ever, with special mention to the Fae Clan's future in Case 2, and basically everything about Case 4. Justice for All can be analyzed for its writing style and difficulty as well. The writing is much more complex and a bit of a higher vocabulary. Nothing drastic, but it gives the 4 cases a sense of depth that may have felt missing in the first game. I sure have missed it there. The game is also way harder than the original, and actually it's the hardest in the series to date. Sometimes if the stakes demand it, pressing statements and cross-examinations that aren't relevant can lead to penalties, as seen with one of Mo's testimonies in Turnabout Big Top. Justice for All obviously doesn't look very distinct from the first game, but minor graphical touches and animations that people probably won't remember unless they just played the game are present. Also, don't forget that the Magatama is a new gameplay feature that was born here. Now, I'd like to talk about JFA's legacy in the Ace Attorney series. You may forget, but the series is very well known for its iconic box arts, and the trend all but the first game has. Take a look at this game. It actually started the 4-person portrait trend, and this game also marks the beginning of the developers showing interest in having the series continue. At least for one more game. When it comes to the characters, my eventual analysis of Trials and Tribulations will heavily focus on them, as that'll be the last time a lot of these characters have a major appearance. So once again, I'm pushing them off a bit. Although I think for the 2 analysis we have under our belt, I'm pretty sure so far I covered everything that needed to be said on Edgeworth and Francisca. So far. The others will have to wait, and I did spend a good bit on Phoenix growing as a lawyer. I'm really glad I could focus on the atmosphere in this analysis, definitely less for that in Trials and Tribulations. So without a doubt, I believe that Justice for All completely obliterates the first Ace Attorney game. Not that there's much wrong with the first one, I still love it and all. I tried to be really harsh on this game, folks, but I couldn't wrongfully label this game as a weak entry in the series like so many others have. I hope with this analysis that people who have mixed or negative feelings on this game will give this one another shot, or just look at my points and reevaluate yours. And hey, I think we can all agree on one thing. Whether you think JFA's personal plots and qualities are bad, we can all agree it fits as well as a second game in a trilogy. Wow, I'm so happy to say Justice for All really did turn out to be a miracle project.